finally, we're here, March, the first month of spring. A very exciting time for gardeners. The garden is springing back to life now. There's subtle signs of life everywhere. All the spring bulbs are starting to pop up now. The daffodils are in bloom. The buds on all them trees, shrubs and different bushes are starting to swell and open up now. The birds are in the trees singing away, and the sun keeps coming out and keeps coming and going away, but it's nice and fair today, and it's all systems go now really. March is the month where we hit the ground running and things really start moving. So these are a few of the things which I'm sowing in March, which you can also sow in March as well. So I do hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you find this video useful as well. Remember to hit that like button if you do. So with all that being said, let's get right into what are we sowing in the month of March. Right, where do I start? I'm going to start off with one of my favourite things to grow, which I'm sure a lot of you are also very keen to get growing as well. Some of you may have started these off in January and February because you may have space to grow them at home, or you may have a heated greenhouse, for example. I've not really sown these yet, and they are tomatoes. I've got a few nice varieties here which I like, which I'll share with you now. March, for most people, is the best time to sow your tomatoes because they do grow quite fast. So, I said in the previous video, if you're starting tomatoes in January or February, it's best to do so only if you have space at home, like a grow light system or maybe a heated greenhouse, so you can protect them from the frosts when you've got these big plants that need potting on and need bringing down to the garden. Sun Gold is my first variety. Absolutely amazingly sweet tomatoes, Sun Gold. One of my favourite tomatoes. I've not tasted a tomato as sweet as Sun Gold. I started off a couple of these last week, late February. I've got a grow light system at home, so I can get away with that. My second variety, which I would recommend, is Black Opal, which is a really nice, tangy, unusual flavour tomato. Black Opal. I really like growing that one. I'm trying a different variety this year called Belladine, which is an F1 hybrid. That's more of a paste tomato. And another variety which I'd recommend is Mountain Magic. This is an alternative to Crimson Crush. I can't get hold of any Crimson Crush. I can never get hold of any. But Mountain Magic is the next best thing, and that's a blight resistant tomato. I've grown this in the past and I've actually had really good results with it, and I grew them outside and they did amazing. I actually had tomatoes in November outside with Mountain Magic, so yeah. Now, I said in my January and February sowing videos that aubergines and peppers can be sown in those months, but you can also sow sweet peppers, chilies and aubergines in March as well. You've still got time in March to get them sown, and of course they will be started off at home where it is protected from the frost, because it's still too cold down in the garden or even in the greenhouse to get them started, unless you've got a heated greenhouse, of course. Now the next one is cucumbers. Cucumbers can be sown in March. They can also be sown in January or February as well. In fact, I sowed these Mini Munch cucumbers in February. Mini Munch is a really good variety to grow, by the way. I highly recommend Mini Munch as a cucumber to grow. There are only around 4 seeds in a packet, and this packet was £3.75. So not the cheapest packet of seeds, but I can tell you now they are well worth getting and growing, because I'm not over exaggerating here. These Mini Munch cucumbers, the last couple of years I've grown them, they have just given me an absolute bombardment of cucumbers. We were picking like a handful of cucumbers every single day from 2 plants. It was absolutely crazy. For 2 or 3 months as well, so over a long period. So yeah, Mini Munch cucumbers, I've already sown some of them in February. And of course they are under the grow lights at home. Another one which I actually sowed the other week in February is butternut squash. This variety is called Hunter and it's an F1 hybrid. And yeah, you can sow butternut squash in March and April absolutely fine. I only started these in February because I always have a really slow start with butternut squash for some reason. Always takes me a long time to get them going. They require quite a lot of heat to get going, and then when I grow them, I find that I need to get them to a good size before they come to the allotment. Probably because of the part shade which I get from these trees. That's probably what that is. But yeah, butternut squash, or to be honest, most other summer squash, you can get them sown in March, but do remember they are not frost hardy. So get them sown at home and make sure they don't come into contact with any frost. The next one is melons. I sowed some of these in February, but March and even April, you can get melons sown. Okay, we're going to move away from the tender things and we're going to go more towards the hardier crops. You can sow them absolutely fine in your greenhouse, even if it's unheated in March, because any cool conditions or even light frosts, they're not going to mind it too much at all. So we're going to start off with the brassicas. Now I've already sown some cabbages, I've sown some Brunswick, which is your big cabbage, and I've sown some Golden Acre Primo too. So I sowed these at the end of February, and March is the perfect time to get most of your brassicas sown. Cabbages, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower and broccoli can all be sown in March just fine. So here I've got some cauliflower and some cabbages sown in these module trays here, which I did the other day, and those are there on the side in the greenhouse. Some things which are going to be direct sown here, these are going to be direct sown outside in March, and those are carrots, two varieties here, they're parsnips. Two varieties of carrot which I've got here. I've got Autumn King, which is your main crop carrot, which will be harvested towards the end of the growing season. These take much longer to grow, but they are bigger carrots and they're better for storing. And then we've got some summer carrots, some early Nantes carrots. I've actually made a few sowings of these in a 30-litre bucket in the polytunnel. I made an early sowing of those now. I did that just before I did this video actually. I did an early sowing of these. So March, get them directly sown outside or in a bucket like I have in the greenhouse if you want. They may take quite a while to get going in March if you're direct sowing them outside, but don't worry, they will come eventually. So the next crop is parsnips. So what I'll do with parsnips in March is I'll get some damp tissue paper or paper towel, I'll stick it in a Tupperware container, and then I will spread the parsnip seeds lightly over the top of the damp paper towel. I'll put the Tupperware tub and the damp paper towel in a Ziploc bag, and then I'll leave them somewhere warm, like a boiler cupboard or somewhere like that, somewhere that gets consistent warmth, and within 5 days or so, the parsnip seeds will start to sprout. Now this method is much better than just direct sowing them outside, because they can take 3 to 4 weeks or even more if the temperatures are cold to germinate. But with this method, getting them sprouted at home somewhere warm and then just popping the sprouted seeds directly outside, you're going to give your parsnip plants a massive head start, many weeks earlier than just direct sowing the seeds outside. I'm just going to throw this one in because I'm trying these this year, and this is Fales, also known as Cape Gooseberry. A really nice fruit to grow actually. When I was a chef, we used to use these on a lot of garnishes. I'm sure you've seen a lot of garnishes on desserts with Fales on it. Really decorative but really tasty berries actually. So I used to snack on a couple of these when I was a chef, and do you know what? I don't know why I've never tried these before. I just never really thought of trying them, to be honest, but I've got a few of these sown in the heated propagators at home. See if we can have any success growing some Phasalis. So yeah, I'd just like to throw that one in there. If you're trying Cape gooseberries, you can get them sown in March if you want. Our next thing is something which can get away with sown in February. I got a few sown in February, and that is peas. This variety is Kelvedon Wonder. I've got a few in module trays here, which I did last week, end of February. I like Kelvedon Wonder because they're a nice dwarf variety, nice and compact. They only grow to around 18 inches in height, so they're really easy to support. You don't need any like crazy trellises to support them, because I can be a bit lazy sometimes. Sometimes I don't like making big massive supports for plants. With this variety I can just use tree branches and sticks and twigs, and I'll pop them in the ground and the peas will just grow around those. So not much hassle, to be honest. But I have sown some Monge 2 in the polytunnel in a bucket. Same bucket as I did the carrots in. Just a few for some nice early pickings of Monge 2 to use in cooking. I will have to support those though. I'll probably just stick some bamboo canes in and some string or something like that, I don't know. I'll just wing it, and we'll see what happens there. In January and February you can sow your onion seeds, and you can start your onion sets in February as well. But March is also a good month for sowing onion seeds if you prefer to sow them from seeds like I do, or if you want to do your onions from sets, you can do them in March as well. March is a good month for that. Now, I've actually sown a few onion sets as well. If I didn't already have enough onions from seed, I have about 600 onion plants which I did from seed in the polytunnel. Yeah, that wasn't enough, so we did some onion sets as well, about 60 sets. The reason why I'm doing that is because I want to compare the results between onion seed and onion sets. And of course I'll be sharing the results with you guys as well, so that'll be really exciting, really interesting to see whether the onion seeds are better or the onion sets are better. We'll see. I'm also sowing some leeks in March as well. Now, I wanted to get leeks sown quite a bit later than last year because my leeks bolted last year because I sowed them too early. They froze and then they thawed out and started growing again, and they thought they were going into their second year of growth. So all my leeks bolted last year pretty much. So I'm sowing them much later this year in March. This is all of our salad crops here which I'm growing now. So I've already sown some mixed lettuces. I sowed some of them in February and they're actually doing pretty well over there in the modules. They've got their first set of true leaves now, and we're only just getting into March, so yeah, really good head start on the lettuce. This is a really good mixed packet of lettuces. There's all sorts on here. We've got butterhead, cos, crisp and loose head types as well. Massive range of different types of lettuce there. We're also going to be sowing some rocket in March to go with our salads, and spinach. That's another one as well to sow in March. If you like using spinach in cooking, I do. Another salad vegetable which grows incredibly quick, really good one for filling the hunger gap in March and April when there's not much else to harvest. Radish can be harvested in as little as 1 month. Direct sow these outside for some early pickings. Now, I've already sown a few beetroots in February and they're doing pretty well actually. They're just getting their first set of true leaves now. But I'm going to make another successional sowing of beetroot in March. So get your beetroot sown in March, maybe get a couple of rows sown in March, and then in April get a couple more rows sown as well for some later pickings, and then in May you can probably sow another couple of rows. So you can do sowings every few weeks of beetroot for a continuous supply of pickings through the growing season. Now, it's still a little bit too early to get things like your runner beans, green beans, sweet corn, courgettes and things like that sown, because these grow incredibly fast. I've seen a few people on these vegetable gardening groups on Facebook about growing beans now, sowing them in January, February and March. And I must say that a bean plant can go from a seed to a plant that's about 12 inches in height in about 2 weeks. So think, if you start your beans off in March, by the time we get into April, you're going to have a bean plant that's trying to climb, it's trying to grow off, and it's trying to. So instead, things like beans and courgettes and sweet corn are best waited until April to sow them, so they can then go outside in May. But there is one type of bean which you can sow in March, and that is broad beans. I'm not really a fan of broad beans, to be honest. I don't know why, I'm just not very keen on them really. I'm much more of a fan of the rudder bean and the green bean, the bean that you can eat the entire pod. Now, you may have already started chitting your potatoes in January and February. I started chitting my potatoes in February. I've got 5 different varieties of potato here. Yeah, a lot of potatoes. Anyway, I've got some first earlies here which I'm going to be planting in March, probably around the middle of March I think, undercover in the polytunnel in the 30-litre buckets. Yeah, we've got some nice chits starting to come on there. They're not quite there yet, maybe another couple of weeks and we'll be planting these. I've also got some second earlies, some kestrels, which I'll sow probably at the same time as the rocket actually. And then I'll probably plant my main crop potatoes late March, early April in 30-litre buckets as well. Although I'll probably be sowing a lot of these potatoes outside in the beds as well, because I've got so many of them. I think I'd have to buy another 20 30-litre buckets I think to accommodate them, and I already have 40 of these buckets for my potatoes. Now, you may have also sown your sweet peas in January and February as well. Possibly, you may have even done them in autumn actually. Some people like to do them in autumn, but I like to do them in February. My sweet peas are growing away here quite slowly but surely. There's loads of them on here, but they're coming up all right. Not very good germination. I've got this mixed varieties pack from King's Seeds, like 9 different types, but I think only 6 or 7 of the varieties have sprouted here. But yeah, we're off to a good start there I think. But if you've not already planted your sweet peas, do them in March, it's not too late. In fact, if you plant them in March, you'll find that they'll probably catch up to people's that have started them in January and February just fine, and you won't even notice the difference. I think it's just preference really. So I hope you enjoy getting your things sown in March. That's all for now. I will see you in the next one. Happy growing and stay safe.